Greetings and welcome to our daily walkthrough scripture for January the 12th. If you remember, yesterday I told you to pay attention to a specific prophecy that was given to Rebekah by God. And basically, the prophecy said that the younger one of the twins was going to be greater than the older one. So we're going to look at today's reading in Genesis, which, by the way, your readings for today should have included Genesis 26:27, Matthew chapter 9, Psalm 10, and Proverbs chapter 3. We're gonna stay in Genesis today and continue our little bit of a conversation there. But pay attention to what's happening in Matthew because we're going to go back to that here soon as well. But you see a couple of different things when it comes to the life of Isaac. First of all, remember the yesterday Isaac had pulled a just like his dad, like father, like son, and said that his wife Rebekah was his sister, and that didn't go well, and Abimelech didn't receive it very well. But interestingly enough, just a few verses down, we see Abimelech approach Isaac and say, "Hey, we recognize that God is with you, and so we'd like to create a peace treaty with you, if you will, so that we won't attack or fight each other anymore." This is a really interesting approach because, the fact that someone else recognizes that God is blessing Isaac is a pretty big deal. Now, back then, a lot of times blessing was perceived because of the great wealth one accumulated and the influence. And there's no doubt that Isaac did that. We see that in the scriptures, that Isaac's his tribe of people, his followers, his servants, and everything was becoming quite large. And as a matter of fact, Abimelech, that's one of the reasons why Abimelech kicked him away. But it's always really interesting when someone recognizes that God is with you, even when they may not be a believer, but they look at you and go, something is different about you. Now, for us today, it doesn't equate to riches or glory. Instead, it really equates to how we respond to situations. Do we respond with trials and tribulations, to trials and tribulations with joy? Do we respond with peace? Do we respond with contentment? And that's really a difficult question to ask. But if we can get to the place of peace and contentment and joy in tribulation, then it really is an incredibly powerful witness, and people will approach you. All right, so switching gears, we're going to talk about Jacob and Esau. Now, the reason why we brought that prophecy up is because Isaac was fully aware of this prophecy. This is not like he was not there to hear this prophecy, and I'm sure he and Rebekah talked about it. So Isaac was aware that there was this prophecy, and yet, for some reason, Isaac really wanted Esau to be the guy. And yet, if you look at the story of Esau and the life of Esau, you recognize that Esau is not a man of character. Now, we're going to see some stuff about Jacob later on that shows that he's a bit of a we see he's a bit of a trickster. So don't hold him up. But Esau doesn't take things seriously at all. In fact, he shows that he has no regard whatsoever for his responsibilities as a firstborn. As we saw in yesterday's verse, Esau gave up his birthright for a bowl of food. Okay. Oh, I'm so hungry. And he made this ridiculous promise, and he gave up his birthright. Now, birthright was a big deal back then. So for him to just give it up for a bowl of food, really, it speaks to how seriously he takes things. Not only that, Esau had open rebellion against his parents. One of the things that was not supposed to happen, remember, Isaac and Rebekah, when they got married, one of the reasons that their story was so powerful is because Abraham sent his servant to a faraway land to find his wife, to make sure that Abraham was giving his son Isaac to someone that was in his family line. Well, Esau completely ignored that. In chapter 26 of Genesis, verse 34, he took someone who was a Hittite to be his wife. And this was a big time no-no. As a matter of fact, the scripture says that he made Isaac and Rebekah, made their lives bitter as a result of it. So Esau is someone who's got a rebellious streak, doesn't take things seriously, but instead Isaac still insists that he's the one that should get the blessing. So Jacob and Rebekah conspire and they pull a trick, and Isaac blesses Jacob. Now, there are a lot of people that read into these things, and I'm going to give you my own opinion that's not in Scripture here, but I don't think that Isaac was completely dumb to the fact that this was Jacob. Okay, it talks about Esau being a hairy man. He must have been a ridiculously hairy man for Isaac to be fooled by the fact that he was wearing goat skins as his skin. It was really the visual image is really quite stunning, and yet Isaac tries to bless and somehow accidentally blesses Jacob instead. And so God's prophecy to Rebekah came true. In spite of things happening and trying to happen against the prophecy, and Isaac, in many ways, willfully trying to go against this prophecy, it happened anyway. God's will is going to be done whether or not we fight it or help it or anything like that. And I think that's an important encouragement for us, because when we are facing those trials and tribulations that we talked about earlier, people can see that if we are truly submitting to the will of God, they can see it in how we respond to it, and it becomes a testimony to others. And then, just like Abimelech said to Isaac, you are blessed by God. Have a good day. We'll talk next time.